All right, let's jump right into this explainer. We're not just swapping campfire ghost stories today. Instead, we are totally dissecting the anatomy of a haunting. We're going to map out exactly how a generational curse operates by looking at the curse of Ramu's Parcel. It is honestly the perfect case study in supernatural dread and just impossible moral dilemmas. Picture this. You're walking down a pitch-black, muddy dirt road in the pouring rain. The wind is absolutely howling through the trees, and your lantern is barely hanging on. Then, out of nowhere, this faceless stranger on a creaky old bicycle rolls up out of the shadows and whispers, "My name, but a parcel for your name has arrived." I mean, talk about a masterful setup for suspense, right? Well, this is exactly what happened to a young skeptic named Ramu and his buddy Mohan. They were in the small village of Kalapur, a place infamous for one very specific, very creepy legend. Never, ever walk the old village road alone after dark. Why? Because locals swore a phantom delivery man stalked those paths. Ramu, naturally, thought this was complete nonsense. But at exactly 9 p.m. on a miserable rainy night, his skepticism crashed head-on into local myth. Now, what's brilliant about this folklore is how the horror runs on a literal ticking clock. Time is basically the ultimate enemy here. The tension just ramps up so perfectly. You've got the bizarre encounter at 9 p.m., the actual curse manifesting right at midnight, and then this frantic do-or-die race against the sun before dawn. It turns what could be a basic haunting into a massive, high-stakes thriller. And the trigger for all of this? The red parcel. Despite his friend Mohan absolutely begging him not to, Ramu actually takes this unaddressed wooden box. And the second he touches it, he knows he messed up. The wood is literally ice cold, like it was just pulled out of a deep freeze. And right then, a ghostly female voice whispers directly into his ear, "Do not open it." The sheer terror of this moment is all in the sensory details. Just imagine the sputtering, dying yellow light of their lantern, the sharp, rusty ring of that bicycle bell cutting right through the heavy rain, the freezing touch of the parcel, and then the climax of the encounter. Ramu looks back, and the postman's eyes have rolled completely white in his head, just totally empty and soulless, right before he vanishes into the storm. Completely shaken, Ramu bolts home and shows this red box to his mom. But instead of comforting him, all the blood just drains from her face. She drops a huge family secret. Decades ago, Ramu's own grandfather brought the exact same type of parcel home, and it unleashed absolute tragedy on their family. But even in her panic, she tells him, no matter how old the evil is, it ends with truth and courage. And that's not just some nice, comforting saying. It's the anchor of this whole explainer, and basically the only key to surviving the night. So Ramu takes the cursed object into his room and locks the door. Outside, the storm is just raging, but inside, things are escalating fast. Defying all logic, the red box suddenly snaps open all by itself. Inside is a smaller black box with a grim warning painted in blood-red letters. Opening this closes the path back forever. And if that wasn't bad enough, a flash of lightning lights up the window, and Ramu sees the ghostly postman standing right there in the rain. The phantom just puts a finger to his lips, whispers to wait until midnight, and disappears. Okay, so we really need to talk about this number, 30. Through the village elders, we find out this curse runs on a highly specific 3-decade cycle. It had been exactly 30 years to the day since this evil last woke up to claim a victim in Kalipur. So we're looking at a systemic, generational trauma that just circles back like clockwork to test the village all over again. And the second that grandfather clock strikes midnight, the 30-year slumber is over. The whole environment just shifts. The howling wind and the rain, they stop dead. It's completely suffocatingly silent. The room gets so freezing cold that the oil lamp just snuffs out. Then, pitch-black smoke starts pouring out of the box, twisting up to form this terrifying female spirit with totally black eyes. And she tells him, the parcel is delivered. Now, a new name has to be found. She leaves behind a piece of parchment that lays out the horrific rules of this curse, and it is a system perfectly designed to spread suffering. By taking the parcel, Ramu triggered step 1. Step 2, he has to go find the next victim. And step 3 is where the blackmail comes in. If he refuses to pass it on to some innocent person, the entire village of Kalipur will literally be wiped off the map. I really want you to think about this impossible choice for a second. It's the ultimate psychological trap, right? Ramu is suddenly holding the fate of his entire community in his hands. Does he completely doom one innocent person to save the rest? Or does he refuse to play the game, knowing it's going to cost him and everyone he loves their lives?
It is just a brilliant way to force the character, and us as the audience, into a serious moral corner.
Luckily, the village elder, Hararem, recognizes what's happening and offers a third option, but it is way more dangerous. He explains that the only way to actually break this cycle is to face it head-on. They have to carry this cursed box deep into the abandoned village graveyard and lock it inside an ancient iron chest before the sun comes up. If they don't get it locked away by dawn, Kalipur is finished.
So, a group of 5 of them, including Ramu and Hararam, grab their lanterns and head out. And this journey is a masterclass in suspense. They're slipping on these treacherous, muddy paths in pitch darkness, being stalked the whole way by the postman, and here's the craziest, creepiest detail. The postman is riding his bicycle, but it's hovering a few inches off the ground. Just imagine being hunted by a phantom on a floating commuter bike. And he whispers this one chilling rule into the dark: whoever runs dies first. So they can't even sprint, they are forced to walk painfully slowly while the decaying, hollow-eyed spirits of past victims are literally rising out of the fog, trying to drag them down into the mud.
When they finally make it to the ancient iron chest, the story hits us with this brilliant parallel. The postman physically blocks Ramu and reveals who he really is. 30 years ago, he was just a normal guy who got handed the exact same curse. But he caved. He took the coward's way out, agreed to be the messenger of doom, and completely lost his humanity just to save his own skin. But Ramu is the exact opposite. He remembers his mom's words. He is absolutely refusing to pass this trauma down to the next generation.
The postman demands that Ramu take his place as the new cursed messenger right then and there. And to prove he's not messing around, he waves his hand and summons this thick, black fog filled with the agonizing screams of the damned. He threatens to unleash it on the village instantly if Ramu says no. I mean, the stakes literally could not be higher here. It is the ultimate standoff between inherited trauma and the sheer courage it takes to break a cycle.
Trusting completely in what his mother told him, that courage defeats ancient evil, Ramu just charges forward. He totally defies the ghostly postman and hurls the black box straight into the open iron chest. And in this incredible split second of teamwork, Elder Haramram chucks his flaming torch right in after it. Boom! A massive explosion of fire erupts into the night sky. The postman lets out this agonizing shriek as his floating bicycle and his monstrous body just completely dissolve into ash. The curse is finally over. Instantly, all those dark spirits creeping around in the mud just vanish into thin air. And as the morning sun finally breaks through the clouds, this warm light washes over the graveyard. Kalipur is actually safe. That 30-year cycle of doom is permanently shattered. And just to be absolutely sure the darkness never comes back, the villagers end up building a protective temple right on top of the iron chest. It's such a powerful reminder that sometimes facing our absolute worst fears head-on is the only real way to protect the people we love.
But you know, even though the village is safe, that kind of psychological impact, it lingers. Even years later, whenever it's raining and Ramu hears the faint ring of a bicycle bell in the distance, he freezes, just for a second. And that leaves us with a pretty chilling thought to wrap up this explainer. What other curses, what other cycles of generational trauma might still be circling out there in the dark, just waiting for the right person to accept the delivery? Thanks so much for exploring this with me, and stay curious.